Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you access knowledge about the latest policy trends, discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe, find solutions in our peer review, get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Welcome, and just very welcome to this webinar on labor market integration of young people. Well, let's see if I manage to share my screen with you today. My name is Erik Gloersen. I'm going to facilitate this together with Mart Veliste this afternoon. I'm very glad that so many of you managed to join us for these rush day just before the Christmas break. I'll be co-facilitating this with Mart Veliste, and Vladimir will be helping us with the technicalities and getting all this to work smoothly for everyone.
Yep. Welcome everybody. Hi, Erik. Also, you are in presentation mode. You need to switch the screen sharing.
I'm sorry. Okay. Let's see if we manage to change the sharing options. So just a second. Sorry about that. There. Okay now?
No, you still need to, I think, go to the display settings in the top middle sector and then switch.
I'm sorry about this.
I can otherwise.
You perhaps share it, Vladimir, for me,
yeah.
if it's so complicated today.
Yeah, the new Zoom technicalities.
There.
No, it's fine.
Now it's good. Okay. Sorry about that. So, can I effectively get started? Welcome to all then. I'm very happy to have you all on board on these hectic days. We will be addressing today the multifaceted challenges of labor market integration of young people. If we can move to the next slide, please. And next one, we have an interesting agenda to address these multifaceted challenges that require many types of responses. But as we know, digitalization is permeating many aspects of society, and that's one of the reasons for which we chose to have a keynote presentation by Gustavs Upmanis, founder of social enterprises All Opportunities in Latvia, and who will be talking about youth integration via digital and interactive methods. This keynote will be followed by two presentations of good practices. Simona from the Institute for Vocational Education and Training in Slovenia will be presenting vocational maturity tools developed or identified in the At Work for Needs Interreg Europe projects. And Regina Lamscheck-Nielsen from Move Apps in Denmark will be reflecting also a bit about this tool and how it's been transposed to the Danish context. Then we also have today to get with us Tjaša Perković from Slovenia also, who will be working on specific type of entrepreneurial support to young people through microcredit. So how microcredit tools can be then adapted to specific context of young people and their integration in the labor market. This will then be followed by a panel discussion and some wrapping up at the end of the session. As I said, the broader context of this discussion is that the different challenges that young people labor market integration are confronted to, including the high unemployment rate in many European countries, the difficulty of matching skills and between demand and offer, the fact that skills are evolving, skill needs are evolving rapidly, and that we have uncertainties about future economic development, so how not only to address current needs, but also to then meet future ones. The fact that transitions from education to work keeps getting longer, can be more complex in many countries. So how to manage this transition period, and the difficulties of developing apprenticeship and vocational training opportunities in sufficient number, of the type of quality, the nature that is demanded. So this is a bit the broader context, and we cannot cover all aspects of this in this relatively short webinar, but we will be then focusing on specific types of approaches and seeing how they may come together to form an effective public policy. One of the reasons why we address this topic in the webinar is that it has been addressed by multiple Interreg Europe projects right now. I can mention At Work for Needs, Rural Youth Future, Yes Volunteer, and also Microfuture and CCON, which are touching on these topics. And we also have one project which is just starting now, which is called Queen, which is about quality apprenticeship for evolving labor needs. We would like then, as I mentioned in this webinar, to explore the wide range of initiatives that can be mobilized to address this challenge, and to explore combinations of measures that make it possible then to arrive at an effective policy. That's our objective today through this discussion. Once again, you're very welcome to use the chat throughout all presentations to put in your comments, your questions. We will try to catch them and then convey them orally to our presenters. So please feel free to use the chat very actively. This is all I wanted to say as introductory words today. I would like to pass on to our keynote speaker, who is then Gustavs Upmanis. So I invite Gustavs, if you could share, hopefully more successfully than I did in the beginning today, your presentation, and then the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I will share the presentation now. But yeah, before I start, I actually wanted to have a bit more of a kind of intro and activity, and I thought maybe I'm going to see your faces. But yeah, I cannot. So I wanted to, I talk about youth integration into labor markets through digital and interactive methods, and it sounds very serious. But once you think deeper about it, this is the moment where I can share my screen. So once you think deeper about it, it's actually, about digital and scaling stuff. So I much more want to be like this cool hip person, and the whole idea is that we need to find new ways to talk with people in new interactive dimensions. Like I have sunglasses, so that means that I just put them, because that's something more fun. Long story short, I will stop with the sunglasses and all those silly willy jokes. But we're going to go deeper into what is digital and scaling. And essentially, digital in my world means everything happening online, everything through the smartphones or computers. And scaling means things that you can do to have hundreds of people, to not be limited by your location, space, etc. So who am I to talk about this? So I'm Gustavs. I'm founder of All Opportunities, and it's a platform for youth opportunities. Well, it's quite self-explanatory. And what we do mostly is digital solutions in many, many ways. So we try to build a platform between youth companies and youth organizations. And that means that we're in the sweet spot. So we offer youth opportunities, work opportunities, and various events and trainings for youth. We have 18 people, and I think the most interesting thing is that we actually have IT people and a sales team. And that's quite uncommon for, I think, people working with youth, etc. So we have a website that has more than 20,000 visitors. We work in more than 100 youth organizations who input opportunities, more than 100 employers. And we have developed this new solution, which was previously called Job Tinder, but we cannot legally call it that. So it's called Matchwork. And the idea is that we match companies with candidates in a very simple way and manner with just a few swipes. And so essentially the main idea, I'm not going to bore you too much with it, but it's that you can apply, select the companies, and companies can select people and interview already at the same place. So you don't need to send CVs back and forth, emails, all of that. So we reduce that. And that's one thing why I think I can talk about it, because we have developed these IT projects. This is what it looks like. Yeah, we have had more than 5,000 people using it. But the second thing is because we had this awesome project called Go Remote, which is a pilot project to explore remote job opportunities. And it was especially built for Youth 2029 with regional involvement, remote and hybrid work. And in total, we got more than 300 people employed. And the process was quite interesting because obviously we had research. Then we did an online conference that I'm going to talk a bit more about, but it was in Latvia, Bulgaria, Cyprus, and Croatia. And it was happening via like simultaneous translations. I never recommend doing that. Honestly, too much of hustle. Then we had these online skill trainings where we trained people for 2 months, for various professions. And then we had online speed dating events and also online mentoring. So we did all of this process for hundreds of people online, and it worked quite well. These trainings were mostly obviously on digital skills. I know that there are places where you need like, medical professionals or something like that. We cannot provide that. There are limitations for anything that we do online. Obviously, this was financed by EEA grants. So that's who I am, where I'm coming from. And today we're going to talk about 3 things, about digital things. So online engagement, how to get people actually participating in these type of things. Because at this point, I have no idea whether you are there and looking at your WhatsApp, whether you are there and watching TV series on the side. There's no way for me to know what type of engagement you have towards me. Only thing I can do is try to be more engaging myself. And the third thing we're going to talk about is scale. How can we scale things to more people, more or less with the same cost? So diving into that. So there's the usual project way. And that is, these small projects, either exchanges or something. Often they happen in person, whether they are trainings for youth or other type of dissemination activities. And you can usually rather easily from your city gather like 20 people or so. There's a lots of travels because if someone wants to go from another city, you need to accommodate that. Usually the growth of it is linear. So it means the more people you want to reach, the more rooms, the more trainers, the more time you need to spend in order to reach them. So it's good that it's positive linear relationship, but it's linear. So examples I mentioned, trainings in person, local conferences in person. Also, as we work a lot with employers, it's also in-person interviews. And obviously now it's most of the things are mixed. Conferences tend to be hybrid. Interviews happen initially, through emails or something. Trainings also, you're most likely entangled. But this is the kind of typical way for projects like ours, like Interreg, etc., how it happens. Then it's the startup way, which is not our world of like project lifecycle, but there the idea is exactly the other way around. So it's exponential. It's not personal. You're not spending any time with real person, like in extreme cases. It's not real time, so you can do it whenever you want. It's always almost always profit oriented and infinitely scalable. So you can scale it up while you're sleeping because your product is doing some kind of a thing. And examples are, if you make online training materials, you can just spread them everywhere. You can make online videos instead of a conference, also just spread it everywhere. And the same, having jobs online calls, if you're with person, that's not fully scalable. But I've seen also solutions that you can just record, and now with AI, there's ideas for those type of things. So that's the other end of the paradigm. So this is a spectrum between the classic, very much in person, and very scalable kind of startup, even though it can be called scaled, digital, whatever, that side. So I'm going to talk more about hybrid way. And obviously hybrid means anything that you wish, you know, whatever small thing you do, it's already hybrid. And that means that it's highly expandable. So you can start with like, you know, 20 people in a Zoom session. You can go to 100 and adding mentors, maybe hundreds. It's more cost efficient. It's suitable for personal connection, you know, because there is some personal connection. Even now, you at least see me and you feel that I'm in real time with you, even though I'm not seeing you, but I could easily be seeing you also here. And technically, it's the best of both worlds. At least that's what I would argue. And I'm going to show with a couple of examples and a couple of kind of do's and don'ts of this. And so a couple of examples is like we made trainings and mentorings with 100 people. So we had Excel like data input trainings. And what we did, we had 2 trainers, each had a group of like 80 people. So we actually had more than 100, had like 150 people. And they additionally had a couple of mentors. So they split people in separate breakout rooms, gave them homeworks, and time after time, a mentor comes into one room, second, third, fourth, fifth. 4 people in total were able to accommodate 150 people. And that's very awesome. And also the idea is that like if they do it 2 times a week, there is also a homework. And Excel is like incredibly good for teaching those kind of things because you can do it on your own as well, you know, unlike other activities. So this is how we did it in trainings. With mentorings, it's happening online. So obviously you need one-on-one mentoring, but still we train mentors online and then they meet participants online. So there's less commuting. We had online conference and I said that like dubbing over in a local language was a disaster. But actually having international speakers from all around the world is incredibly great. Because you most likely have heard of some very cool, like I have a friend who's collecting life wisdoms from India, and I could invite him to participate in our conference just because, yeah, he is online. Or we had like a marketing specialist from Sweden. And I don't know about your countries and places, but I know that in Latvia, you can sell this content much better if you present someone like being this Indian guru from India or this growth marketeer from Sweden, you know? This exotic vibe also adds to the thing. And lastly, yeah, we are making this matchwork platform where there's online job interviews. And then after the first interview, you go to in-person interviews. So we actually try to speed up the as soon as possible towards the in-person thing, because that is the only thing which online and AI cannot eradicate, a real connection person to person. And so about the benefits of scaling and digital solutions, some of them are more obvious, some less. But the obvious benefits are, well, you can have more people at the same time. It's good, it's nice, it's cool. That's why I'm happy to be here in this conversation, because there are like 65 of us. And in Latvia, people who make Interreg projects are like 15, most likely, and I wouldn't be able to get them here. So yeah, it's more people at the same time. Also, it's more affordable per cost of minutes. So it means you can get better speakers, because if you have, instead of 20 people, you have 100, in theory at least, you can have 5 times the cost for a speaker. There's also less costs actually on catering and other things, but then again, it's nice for people to have food when they're coming, so that's pluses and minuses. It's flexibility, mainly for the people attending, because you can just join in the middle of the workday and have like half an hour, you know, for this or an hour. But also for the whole team, it's actually more flexible because you can easily change. You don't need to think about location. You don't need to prepare as much for a single event. People can be at home, they can be remotely, so it gives even more flexibility. Yeah, and that's exactly what I mean, that you don't need to leave your bed, which is especially sometimes important for young people. And there's better cost efficiency overall. But then there's a couple of benefits which are less obvious, and these are actually the ones that I'm really eager to talk about. So the first thing is that on online and digital solutions, there are network effects. And what I mean by that, classical network effects is, for instance, on Facebook. You care about Facebook only if there are other people on Facebook. Otherwise, you have no one to write it to. Same as with WhatsApp and other places. So if you benefit from the fact that there are more people joining, it's good. In trainings, that's usually not the case because, well, you mainly get things from the trainer. But then again, if you have peers, if you have mentoring groups, there's also a network effect. Where we really see this, at least now, is employment. Because we have this solution where we need to have a lot of companies, a lot of candidates. Previously, we made in-person speed dating interviews with candidates companies, and you can get maximum of like 20 companies and 80 people, and then they're mixing, and they have a limited benefit because from 80 people, only a couple of them can be hired, or like maybe one from these companies. But if you build it online, then we suddenly have like 100 companies and like 2,000 candidates. And then each candidate actually can be hired by several people. So it provides benefit both to the candidates, as there's more employment, and also for companies, because they can meet more people. So that's very interesting for certain aspects, such as labor market. Maybe there's others in this project context, we can definitely think about it. Second thing is more choice and more personalization. Because what happens usually, you go to an event, no one knows who you are, you're going to listen to all the content, or you need to have a lot of different contents. Then randomly, most likely, you're assigned to some group of people, you communicate together, you see that one of you is working in agriculture, second in digitalization, you talk a bit, not that much in common. But actually, you can have more personalized content if you do things online, because you put in more information and then you get more like relevant information to you because of algorithm groups. It can match just random participants from these like 65 people that are here. In the end, we could make like one-on-one sessions based on the interest that you have. So just like small groups in which you talk, and maybe someone's from your country or maybe someone's from the same area of interest. So we can personalize content much better and their choices. Third thing is there is faster learning. So, if you already know something, often if it's on video, you can skip it. We have used it quite a lot in the past. There's also a quick feedback and opinion polling. If I wouldn't be as lazy for this, and I would have a bit more time, also like not 20 minutes, I would actually want to poll you on what you see as the most critical challenges in digital environment, on scaling. And honestly, if you would be on your phones now, which half of you are, we could immediately see how many of you feel the same way. And we can do it back and forth. We can do hours of this and get a high quality, high output information. And lastly, which is a specific one, it can be asynchronous. So that means that one person does it in their time zone, another in their. Like most typical is email. You send an email, you don't expect that person is immediately going to reply. So, it comes back, but also with videos, also with other things. And that allows for people to plan their own time much, much better in regards to what you're doing. Obviously, there are drawbacks. So in Europe, countries have their nuances, a lot of them, especially languages, as you can see, but also just culturally. The thing that works for one doesn't work for others, especially with online and digital solutions. We have seen in our partners that have less flexibility, and they often feel less ownership because it's an international digital event. So they're like, yeah, you're organizing it. But actually, every country needs to input as much of marketing resources like communication, all of that. So there is higher risk if done poorly. And what I mean by that is that essentially, yeah, digital environment, people are gonna zoom out and they're not gonna listen. So if you are boring, it's gonna be bad. And that's why I've heard so many people say that, yeah, digital might work for you, but it doesn't work for us. And usually I don't have the courage to say it's just because you're boring, but usually that's what I think. There's high risk to alienate people, because for instance, now I don't see any of your faces. Several of you might be, what does alienate mean? And it means to make someone an alien, so outsider. But I cannot see it in your face, whether you know this word or not. So I can just talk about things that you don't want to listen about and do not receive the feedback unless I have a good feedback loop. And lastly, for small markets, it's much, much harder to reach a large scale. So Latvian markets, like 2 million people, yeah, we cannot have like trainings in very specific niches with like hundreds of people, thousands, you know, while in larger markets, you can easier do that. So last 3 minutes, what I want to say is that online events are attended only by people. Because there's a lot of questions how to engage governments, organizations like Interreg project writers like you and implementers. And the thing is always attended only by people, which means that there is something that they want. Either it's to have fun, to have knowledge, or to have some kind of benefit. Most likely you're here because you want to have knowledge, and you're listening a bit more just because I'm slightly more entertaining than people usually are. Maybe, hopefully, maybe not. So yeah, and you need to know what you're addressing, because I've been on way too many panels in international events where it's just like, technically it's about benefits or knowledge, but in reality, things keep on repeating. And once you lose a person, you just lose them. You're not getting them back 5 minutes later when you're more in depth about the topic. And so the main is that online doesn't work if it does not engage. And like, if there's one learning I want to take for you, like for you to take home, is that online events are attended only by people who are engaged. And that's what you should always strive to do. And don't copy real life things online, because, you know, I could be drawing something on a board or so. I could be actually drawing things on my screen. If I just copy that, it's worse if I do it on my screen. If I make you all to share on the same screen and write things at the same time or draw things, like it's impossible in, you know, on a real chalkboard to have 50 people drawing at the same time. Online, we can do that. So we need to change the things a bit. Also, like having various, you know, different filters, designs, whatever, that's happening online. But not in person. So use that. And so try to make quizzes. Try to make polls. Also giving prizes is very good. Possibly I should have encouraged chat and questions here with promising prizes. You know, try to have filters, try to have little games. Always try to make breakout rooms with tasks. Because breakout rooms, like if you're with 4 people, you have to be engaged. You know, there's no option, especially if you know that in 5 minutes a mentor is going to come and ask for your process. So yeah, go wild, think about it, have it fun, have it different than in real life. And yeah, think about how can you scale these things and how can you retain people's attention. Because, well, all in all, in this, you know, yeah, in this world that we live in, you know, we cannot think that we're suddenly going to get people more into the classrooms where they have to listen to you. We cannot think that, oh, they're going to stop using social media networks and going to, you know, increase their attention spans. No, you need to adjust. You need to be quicker, more engaging, and more fun. And then people are going to come to you, visit you, and use the things that you give to them. And a couple of last ideas that we're now thinking of doing in the future. So we're actually planning to do escape room online with influencers, where people need to answer questions about employment to escape the rooms. And influencers are mentors who are going around. So you kind of get them in a room because of influencers and they know they're going to meet them. But then they need to, you know, learn things about employment. Similar, we're in January organizing trivia for HR professionals. Because they're people. If they can vote on things, it's a game. It's not a work, and you want to, you know, play games instead of working, especially if your work thinks you're working actively. It's very nice to have parallel conversation in chats. I'm actually much less engaged now in chats than I usually am, but moderator said that it's fine. But yeah, because, you know, if there's a word you don't know or something, someone else from a team or somewhere can explain that, or we can save these as questions or whatever, you know. So chats are awesome thing, how to have like other dimension of conversation. And lastly, parallel moderators in breakout groups based on interests, personalization, just based on teams. That's a thing that I really, really recommend. So there's a lot of ideas, a lot of options. Just think freely, and I think it's gonna be fine. Yeah, because people are gonna attend events only if they see benefits in them. So thank you, and feel free to ask questions. Feel free to connect with me. Because, yeah, we do a lot of new things online, and we're going to keep on going. So thanks for the time. And, yeah, I hope this was engaging, beneficial, and you learned something new. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gustavs. Indeed, very important to get these reminders. We're going online, what does it imply, and how is it thought from keeping in mind this idea of using the resources most efficiently, scaling the tools.
Sorry?
And
my internet glitched. Sorry. That's one drawback of digital era, that the internet glitches time after time.
Okay. Please feel free to submit questions if you have any from the audience. We haven't had much yet in the chat. I don't know if this raised any issues, if it echoes things you've been doing, attempts at going digital in your organizations that have been echoed a bit by what Gustavs is saying, if you want to share some experiences.
Erik, may I maybe start? Ask
of course,
a question
Mart.
from Gustavs. I mean, again, pleasure to actually see you again, Gustavs, because we also met in person in Burgos in a workshop earlier in the year. And back then, of course, you were also very engaging there, livened up the room after lunch. And I appreciate you doing it here again today. And I always, in my head, I'm, you know, self-critical, or like, how should we do our own events better in a virtual setting? And I think, again, picked up many things from you. But my question is maybe coming to the topic matter and what you do in your organization as such, because you presented that your platform has access to roughly, I don't know, 6,000 young people. You have 20,000 clicks or views every month. Have the public authorities in Latvia also taken an bigger interest in what you're doing? Have you become some sort of a strategic partner for policymakers who want to sort of enhance youth employment policies? Do they see you as an asset, or is it for you still very much do you need to find your own sort of way and they don't really much, you know, so are you visible in the Latvian market in a way for policymakers? Do they see you as a third sector partner that can help achieve some outcomes, or what's the status today?
Yeah, the thing is that like they know about us. Like I know that like Ministry of Education and Science, you know, thinks about us, and Ministry of and employment agencies talking about us in their like lectures, etc. But the problem is that it's very tough to be partners with governmental institutions, at least in Latvia. What we've seen, because, well, you need to participate in procurements, and they need to be very specific on what they need. And we are often somewhere there. We have had event sessions with Ministry of Science and Education, and that was nice. But in general, like, yeah, often it's very hard, because I'm going to give you a real life example. So there is parliamentary kind of group of people who are thinking about volunteerism platform in Latvia, which showcases volunteering opportunities. And we are a platform which showcases opportunities, including volunteering opportunities. So technically we have this platform. And they have a group of people who are thinking about this. And I was like, oh, maybe I should join, because, you know, I even have a way in there. And then if I join there, then it's conflict of interest. So I cannot participate in procurement. So I cannot provide services. So, you know, they need to come up on their own, but they think that, yeah, if you have a private party, it's unreliable. So you cannot really outsource this thing to the private, you know, company, even if it's a social enterprise. So they're now considering developing a wholly new product on this. And then, depending on specification, which I cannot influence, obviously, we can participate as procurement people to deliver this platform, which will be possibly copy-paste from our platform. And so it's really tough to kind of find a way how to conversate. And also, if we ask for money, then we cannot, then often organizations cannot, like governmental organizations, cannot work with you. That's what we had with employment service and matchwork. So it's tough. It's fidgety, flickering. So yeah, not an easy way.
Yeah, thank you. And I think this you already answered actually a question that came in the chat because we had Vita was asking, have you done actually matching young people to volunteering vacancies? And you basically explained that.
Yeah, again, internet slightly, but yeah, how we done matching with volunteers in jobs, right? Yes. We actually did it initially in person. We had these events where we also had algorithms. So before events, we match which companies or organizations are gonna meet which participants. And then we started doing it online. So yeah, it works very well for volunteering opportunities if there is enough organizations, and it works very well for jobs. So yeah, there are options. And sorry if we didn't respond. I'm not sure what happened. We are usually very responsive, but you have no way of knowing because you tried once and we failed to respond. Sorry.
Thank you. Did you have any more questions, Mart?
I mean, if we have time, I could ask one more question.
one last then, and before we move on.
Maybe coming to the project you mentioned, the Remote Now project, and I think you said you were able to get 300 people employed, if I heard you correctly, or something like that. What would you say was the key success element there, considering you did it all online? So, what was like the most necessary feature that enabled to reach this quite high KPI in my view, at least?
Yeah, the answer is going to be very lame, but in reality, it's salespeople. Because if we have people who are actively communicating with companies, they need these people. And if you offer to do it for free, they're actually quite eager. But the problem is that they're super busy, so they're not replying to the emails. They're not replying to like calls often. So you need to keep on pushing them and starting to build relationship with them. And yeah, I think that is the hardest part because and the second thing which is tough is to get people to understand the gaps between the jobs, because obviously we need a lot of service people, a lot of like people who do like hardworking job, like blue collar job, and young people mostly want to do white collar job and online offices. So kind of getting the right people in the right room at the same time, really reading it, and actually now I know the most precise answer. Having specific topics is the key thing. We started with random speed datings, it didn't work, and then we had them on financial services or for customer support. And that actually, this personalization was the thing which helped a lot.
Thank you very much, Gustavs. Yes, I think it's time to move on to the next part of this webinar, which is then on vocational maturity self-assessment tool. So very different aspects. Now we've been focusing on young people as digital natives and communicating with them. Now we'll work on also these young people not necessarily knowing exactly what they want to do, how they can engage in the labor market, and how to help the professionals who are supposed to guide them in this process. Simona, would you like to take the floor, please, and present the vocational maturity self-assessment tool?
Thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity to present this tool that we developed during the Erasmus Plus project. Can you confirm that my slides are synced? Okay.
All good. Yes, perfect. Thanks.
So it is, thank you very much, Gustav, for this first part of the event. You should send me an email to prepare myself better, more engaged in and not dull. So I'm not sure if I did this part of the homework. But anyhow, I hope that the passion for the work in the field of the education, young youth education, supporting systems for youth to thrive can be transferred to you in other ways. So I'm here to present you this vocational maturity tour. My name is Simona Knavs. I'm working in the field of vocational education and training in Slovenia for the last 15 years in National Institute for VET. We are developing formal VET qualifications and supporting VET providers, and this is often work in international cooperation with colleagues from all over Europe. At CPI, we wanted to explore the vocational maturity in this project because of the apprenticeship that was re-established in Slovenia in 2017. The Youth in Transition toward Vocational Maturity was the project of Erasmus Plus that was initiated and coordinated by Denmark partners, UU Denmark and Mueve, and Regina is here today with me, and implemented also with in Iceland through Public Employment Service, and in Slovenia also by another Slovenian partner, Public Education Center Ceneštupar. It was also quality assured by experts from University of Hamburg in Germany. Project was finished in 2021, but recently rediscovered the results by the colleagues from At Work for Youth Interreg project. In the Youth in Transition project was the goal to develop a didactical process, thinking how should the professionals approach the complex situation when the young has multiple difficulties as a subgroup of needs. So not all the needs, but we were focusing also on those situations where the difficulties are multiple and from different parts of life of young. As presented in this slide, the process was titled Individual Pathway for Needs in Cross-Professional Settings. Of course, different topics needs cross-professional approach. We focused on the two questions of needs. So on the one hand, what the professional needs, and on the other hand, what young person needs to resolve this situation. As you can see here in the middle, a taxonomy toward vocational maturity is describing the developmental process. A professional working with need should proceed. It has to be said that the evaluation that we did in the project showed that the number of young ready for education or for vocational mature raised significantly during this pilot tryout in the project, the pilot tryout of the presented didactics. But of course, not only needs any young person in transition regarding education and workplace can benefit for the career counseling support of a professional that are aware of the importance to identify and address individual needs on their way, of course, to become mature enough to successfully enter workplace and vocation. Besides successfully finishing their vocational or education and training for the vocation, young should also be aware of other, maybe more practical, everyday issues regarding the transition period. That is why we defined the vocational maturity as a set of competencies and potentials necessary for starting and retaining a job or apprenticeship or internship, being aware what it may mean to join the workforce is important part of general career orientation for young, and this should they should get it during any type of education or training. This is the way also to prevent some issues to become obstacles in the future. Now, in this tool, the set of competencies and potentials were folded into 6 dimensions: motivation, setting goals, flexibility, resilience, social norms, and professional skills. In the tool, each dimension is defined then by 4 to 6 statements. For example, I can relocate for a job or for an education. I can adapt to different situations at workplace, for instance. And the tool can be used easily with paper and pen, but simple online version is also available. So the one uses the tool in a way that he or she responds to each statement with the proposed answers with the following taxonomy, stating that it is not important for me. I want it, but I did not yet. I just started. I'm working on it. I'm doing quite well, or I succeeded. We call the tool a self-evaluation in dialogue, to emphasize that this is not an assessment tool to compare individuals or something similar. This is not a measurement tool, but it is here to help young and their counselors to converse, to define the young needs, ways of proper support, discover what are one's points of view, etc. The answers are also not straightforward. For instance, maybe I don't want to move for the education or training, and this could be perfectly okay. Further topics for dialogue can be found if the tool is used as a self-evaluation, that is why I was talking till now, or it can be used also as a goal setting, and it could be used as a counselor evaluation, and comparing those results is another set of topics to converse in a professional setting. So the vocational maturity tool is a tool for a self-evaluation in dialogue. Its purpose is to support professionals such as guidance counselors and teachers in their vocation-directed dialogues with young persons that are exploring their paths and defining their needs toward their financial, social independence, etc. Please feel free to browse the Youth in Transition webpage to discover several well-written and practical results that are available for you to use with a simple courtesy of acknowledging its authors and EU funding. Thank you for your attention. I'm very happy to answer any question. Back to you, Erik.
Thank you very much, Simona. Very nice introduction to this tool. One of the features we, of course, love in the Interreg Europe context is that this has already been transferred across countries. So this is the kind of sharing of good practice and joining forces in a way to create a new tool, which we love. We have Regina with us, who is one example of this, how this sharing of the outputs of this sharing. So maybe, Regina, if you would like to comment a bit on how you've taken on board this tool, or reflection around the usefulness of this tool, how it's of added value. Regina, do you want to add a few elements to then the presentation you just heard?
Yes, thank you very much for having me here. My name is Regina Lamscheck-Nielsen. I'm half Danish, half German. And my status is that I have been a project manager for a range of projects following up on youth in transition here in Denmark. So all in all, we have been working with at least 1,000 young people. They were needs, some of the most exposed young people with very complex problems. This meant we had to work individually with these young people and we were working with individual learning and development processes. In this way, we allowed ourselves to call their development processes and learning processes for a didactic approach, because you have to design as a professional or as several professionals, you have to design activities, guidance and supportive activities in a meaningful order after each other and with meaningful activities to support these very exposed, young, vulnerable young people at the age of 15 up to 29. So didactics is a term coming from the teaching sector, but we transferred it to this very complex field. And I know a lot of people have asked how to organize these personalized individual learning processes. And seen from the young people, they were their pathways, the individual pathways towards a job or towards a vocational education. This pathways needs an organization from professionals. And it's not enough to have a teacher to guide a young person, let's say 3 weeks or not even half a year. These were long-term processes. Maybe some of them needed some years to get somewhere where they became self-supportive. So a coordinator is needed. We call them scouts with an artificial term. In other contexts, they were called contact persons because they had a double profile. On the one hand, they had an organizing profile. On the other hand, they have a guidance, a professional profile, a pedagogical profile. So it's actually kind of Superman or Superwoman to organize these very complex processes, because these processes, they take place across sectors and across organizations, between employment people, between social sector people, between psychologists, and between the educational sector. So we invented this term of the chain and the chain responsibility, to be responsible for the young persons. And the chain, the links of the chain, they have to be linked together so that each individual young person is not possible to fall throughout this pathway. Yeah, I could, of course, tell much more, but maybe I only tell about the impact. And in Denmark, we had a great evaluation, or a huge evaluation of all these projects and initiatives, which actually became law, so that we have a law about all this, what we are telling at the moment. And about half of the young people, they came into a job and became self-supportive. The story, of course, is much longer, but this is actually the bottom line output. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think you mentioned this notion of catching all the young people. Basically, you need the chain to make sure that as few as possible or that the success rate gets as high as possible in these processes. It's interesting because it's also then, we had another example in Luxembourg where they're also implementing this right now, and they're using this as part of the youth guarantee. So the person who's in charge in Luxembourg is Marianne Hartfeld, and I had a talk with her yesterday about this tool too, and she also reflected on the fact that this helps them getting more professional in dealing with these specific types of the tricky cases somehow, in joining different roles and setting up this well, you mentioned the Superman. I'm wondering if the Superman is then in a way not becoming the system also, because you have some, of course, brilliant resource persons somewhere in the system, but they are not in unlimited numbers, and optimizing the whole system structure around makes it somehow possible to become a Superman by joining forces. So I think that's quite fascinating in this, and also the fascinating fact that you've built up this whole way of thinking, this method by joining forces across European countries and that you're transposing it and that it can be adapted in all languages. In Luxembourg, they actually told me now they have this tool in French, German, and Luxembourgish and English, and it's the first time they actually get a tool in Luxembourgish. So they haven't had any tools on that in Luxembourgish up to now. So that's quite fun in a way that European cooperation makes it possible for them to create a tool in their own language. So anyway, I think we have a very nice panorama then of different countries that are taking up this tool that are then applying it to their own context. I don't know, Mart, if you have any questions or if you've seen the chat is coming up, any elements come up?
Yeah, no, I think I still encourage everybody to write in the chat, or our other speakers are also welcome to raise their virtual hand, and you can have word as well. You don't have to only speak during your session if you want to also join in. Also, thank you for sharing the methodology, and really impressive to hear how it has already been used in other contexts, and really giving a systematic approach to this tricky target group and tricky societal issue. Maybe something that I would like to ask then from both of you is still that this sort of the tool that enables this self-evaluation in dialogue. It's like a starting point before you get to this conversation before the youth and before the counselor or the scout or whatever label we give that person. If you compare it to what was there before this tool was initiated, then how is this tool really sort of helped to speed up the process? Or so I guess before this, the counselor would have had to ask all of these things in the first meeting, and it would have taken much more time. Or so have you really seen that this somehow sets the conversation on the right path more quickly? This can be concluded this is one of the main benefits of this approach?
May I answer, so Simona?
Please.
Okay, the tool itself is not a standalone miracle maker. It's not a game changer in itself. It is a tool to be applied during this didactic process, and only if it makes sense to both the young person and to the context, to this kind of local ecosystem, which Erik just mentioned. And in each local system, in each local education chain has to be decided when to use this tool, how, in which kind of situations, in which contexts, how often, how to follow up, and how to support the young person when a profile comes up. So it's not like before the tool and after the tool. It's like this is one, one instrument to apply, to be decided on actively. Yes, but you're right in a way. Before, what I heard a lot of time before, situations often were kind of coincidental, or kind of, in our professionals call it stomach feeling alike. Like I feel something that this young man needs more of this and this. And in this way, there are 6 dimensions where a young person's strengths and needs can be identified, and professionals also have blind spots. Counselors, teachers, they have blind spots, and they maybe didn't see that there actually are some professional skills which he or she has from her past or from her leisure time engagement or whatsoever. So it's become more systematic. And more focus on a collaboration around the follow-up on the profiles.
Thank you. And this is, I think, a very sort of important clarification, because often, as Erik said, we want practices to be transferred, but then you need to also transfer them in the right manner. And you can't just take a tool, as I was presuming, I take the tool and I fix the situation. So that you very nicely explained that, no, you need to be still understand when is the right time. And this is also an important learning sort of to pass on. So thank you, Regina, for this clarification.
I would just like to add, maybe for professionals, this field of work that are young on the edge, or needs, or whatever situation that is more troublesome, or it is complex. Meaning it means for professionals to cooperate different profiles. And this is very rewarding for professionals to work in such a settings, because you go beyond your vocation or your professional area, and this is really empowering for and lasting for anyone that goes into this kind of cooperation work on the local levels or international.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Simona. We have now covered two interesting aspects. One is more on the use of digital tools and how it can be optimized in combination with other formats. We've been working now on how to professionalize the support approach, the different complementary roles and the mobilization of different methods. Last element we will be then going into is maybe focusing more on young people that have already ideas, ambitions, they know what they want to do, but the access to funding may be the obstacle for some young people in transforming their aspiration into a concrete project. For this, we'll be focusing on an example of microcredit for young people in farming. This is then taken as an example of how to mobilize microcredit for young people. Microcredit may be also something that is not so commonly known in this sector of labor market integration of young people. So I think it's quite interesting to get an insight into how microcredit function and how it may be mobilized. So inspiration for all of you to how maybe you could then mobilize this tool of microcredit in the context of, well, when dealing with young people seeking to integrate or to achieve their objectives. For this, Tjaša Perković then has a presentation ready for us. So Tjaša, please.
Thank you for inviting Slovenian Regional Development Fund to participate in this very interesting webinar. I will just now start sharing my screen. Okay. Do you see my presentation?
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We see it.
So Slovenian Regional Development Fund is a public fund that implements regional policies in the 12 regions of Slovenia. We are currently on our way, at least this is the goal, to increase our portfolio by 5 times. How? One would ask herself, right? So how? We do it by recognizing new opportunities, and one of them was financing young people, and we focused on young farmers because I am very glad that Hearts of Slovenia, that are a partner in a project called Microfuture, recognize one of our financial instruments, that's the microloans, as a good practice, and are now promoting it among other partners in that are included in this project. So today, I would like to start with, I would like to tell you a few words about how the Slovenian model for financial instruments in agriculture were built, in what environment, how we determined the financial gap, what is the structure of our financial instruments, the aims, and of course, why does it appear simple to young farmers? Because one of their demand, and that was very clear, is that it has to be simple and fun, of course, like we heard. So what I also wanted to say is that microloans, that is one of our financial instruments, are not only suitable for young farmers, but for any young entrepreneur, because it is simple and it is fast. That's another demand that young people have. Everything needs to be fast. And it's fast in terms of applying for the microloan, and it's fast in terms of getting access to finance. So they like it, they love it. So now let me tell you something about the environment in which we built this model that is now being recognized as a good one from the side of beneficiaries and from the side of also a lot of organizations, since we are presenting it in quite some seminars like this one. Let me first tell you something about our environment. Slovenia is predominantly a rural country with an agriculture sector that is dominated by family farms. The average age of a farmer is 57, and the average farm size is between 7 and 8 hectares, so quite small. Most farmers are dairy and cattle producers, but the crop sector has the highest share of production value. Approximately 17% of loan applications are unsuccessful. Either the bank refused the application of the farmer, or the farmer refused the offer of the bank. So none of them were happy. And access to finance for young farmers is a lot more difficult than for the other entrepreneurs or for elder farmers. And the financial conditions they are offered are less favorable in terms of collateral requirement, costs, and grace periods. So it's very difficult for a young farmer to get access to the finance. There were 3 main stakeholders involved in building this model. The first one is Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Food. The ministry was under a lot of pressure put by European Commission to launch financial instruments in agriculture in Slovenia. And the pressure was coming from the fact that Slovenian farmers were used to high interventions in form of grants, of course, and from the fact that in the programming period 2014-2020, 2 attempts for developing financial instruments in agriculture in Slovenia failed. So the ministry is funding these financial instruments in agriculture from the national funding, but when we were building the models, they are designed to make EU funding possible. So when when the ministry will decide to fund it from the funds, European funds, it will be possible and very easy actually to switch. The other stakeholder, very important stakeholder, were of course young farmers. They represent the beneficiaries that are in Slovenia. They are a very demanding and well-organized stakeholder. They demand simple, fast procedures. They demand maximum transfer of benefits, and they expected an innovative financial product. I have to emphasize here that young farmers get a lot of support to prepare their application for the financial instrument or any other financial product. We organize workshops for young farmers at least twice a year. And during this workshop, we teach them how to apply for funds. And we are also open to any project-specific questions. We record these workshops, and then we publish them on our website, so that when they prepare the application, they can actually prepare it like it said in the workshop. So, and we also have 4 advisors that are always there for the young farmers when they have a question. So it's very easy to get in contact with us, and either by email or by phone or by Zoom, whatever form of communication is fine for us. And we are there to help them to apply for the funds. And it's obviously working because we are having really good results. The third stakeholder is, of course, us, Slovenian Regional Development Fund. We are always in search of new financial sources and new innovative approaches and financial products. And we were very willing to contribute to build this model. Our goal was to develop a financial product that is tailor-made for the young farmer. And they were included in the process of developing both of the financial instruments that we launched in the past year. In the way, so when they were involved in constructing, building the model, they also were able to learn about the benefits that this financial instrument brings for them. So, and of course, we were repeating them all the time, like 100 times. But I think it was a good way to build the model, and the model is recognized as very successful. But before you start to build the model, you have to determine the financial gap. And in Slovenia, it was determined to be like minus 952 million euros, so quite a gap. And in this gap, the most representative beneficiaries were, of course, young farmers. So it is especially hard for them to get access to finance. So how is the model then structured? The managing authority is the ministry. They provided 20 million euro in the period of from 2023 to 2027 with the intention to provide access to finance to young farmers, addressing concrete and well-defined market gaps. You remember we involved them in defining the market gaps. So the market gaps are addressed with the following benefits: less collateral requirements, subsidized loan, less costs, subsidized interest rate, and an innovative benefit that's called capital rebate. Slovenian Regional Development Fund is acting as a financial intermediary. 10 million euro are used to form the microloan fund and 10 million to form the guarantee fund, because as I said, we developed two financial instruments for young farmers. The microloans are a very useful and very widely used tool for many young farmers. And it can be used for other young entrepreneurs across Europe because of its simplicity and because, as I said, the young farmer has access to money very quickly after they submit the application. Well, the other fund is the guarantee fund, and it represents the Slovenian model for a financial instrument with two grant components. That's the subsidy for interest rate and the capital rebate. The capped portfolio guarantee provides credit risk coverage on a loan-by-loan basis for the creation of a portfolio of new loans to young farmers up to a maximum loss amount. The guarantee rate is 80% and guarantee cap rate is 30%. What does it mean? It means that the young farmer has to provide collateral for only 20% of the loan value, and that the loss that is covered by this guarantee fund it's set at the 30% of the portfolio. I hope it's not too difficult to understand. But if you have any question, you can ask at any time. In this slide, you can see a few characteristics of both of the financial instruments. The first one is the microloan instrument. The young farmer can get a loan up to 25,000 euro. The process is very fast, as I said, and with zero interest rates and no insurance at all. So it is very convenient for them. And the other financial instrument, we also finance projects of young farmers up to 1 million euro. This financial instruments was developed together according to their needs, and they get an award for sustainability. And that award is the innovative component of the financial instrument that is called capital rebate. Capital rebate represents the innovative component, and it is linked to performance. It is a write-off of an early repayment of the corresponding part of the loan exposure, and the amount or the percentage and conditions that trigger the capital rebate are clearly set in the public tender and in the loan agreement signed with the final recipient. So if they are sustainable, they get an award. They don't have to pay back the all of the loan. So let's switch for a moment to the beneficiary point of view. They want to have simple application forms, they want to receive maximum of the benefit, and they want to be the financial instrument to be innovative. Now, Slovenian Regional Development Fund, on the other hand, combines 3 schemes of state aid and the minimum aid rules, which allow young farmers to receive maximum of the benefits. We developed the innovative component, as said, capital rebate, and we simplified the application forms and reduced the administrative burden for the beneficiaries to the minimum. So all of the benefits to transfer to the young farmer happen in one single operation. And this means that Slovenian Regional Development Fund succeeded. For the young farmer, it's easy to access. So that would be all from my side. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Tjaša. I must acknowledge that this gets quite technical. I think for everyone, just getting the idea of how these funds function with the notion of some kind of managing authority and then financial intermediary systems, combinations of loans and grants that you sketched that can be applied in many different ways, and that this could be transposed in many contexts to different, when thinking of wide demographic population of young people. Some of them have different types of ambition, would like to test ideas, and have difficulties accessing financing to just test some kind of entrepreneurial idea in farming, in this example, or in other contexts, and get an idea of how this can be set up, and that this is actually funded by EU funds. So this can be funded under ERDF, ESF programs today, and it's being done in many member states. So I think that was a very inspiring way of just seeing that this is an option and it can be developed in different contexts. I don't know if any questions come up in the chat, or if Mart, if you have any questions you would like to submit.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the presentation, Tjaša. And having just recently read these reports by the Commission and the OECD about challenges around youth entrepreneurship and what they mostly need, then it is very much about access to finance. And so it's nice to see that in Slovenia you've been able to sort of provide this in the agriculture sector like this. And another thing I recall from those is that apparently some studies show that grant mechanisms to support young businesses are maybe not as successful as we want them to be compared to other types of finance instruments. And therefore we get to this model of microfinance, which is essentially a repayable loan, which helps, enables you as a public authority to keep on using those funds to support another farmer. So I think it's in that case, for me, it's really was nice to hear this story from you firsthand as well, and how it has been working. Another thing I picked up is, of course, that you assist the farmers quite a lot in sort of writing these applications. You mentioned workshops and even some tailored support. So I understand that this is somehow a key it's not enough that we have a great EU finance instrument and we want to give it to the beneficiaries. It is also that we need to somehow guide the end users.
Of course. And we assist them throughout the grace period. So the microloan is repaid in 5 years. And we stay in communication. We assist them through any possible trouble they might get in when leaving their project, when putting it to, so it's, and for the other financial instrument that includes the portfolio guarantee, we assist them for 20 years. So they already become older at the end.
Well, and then you have a lot of work ahead of you then, like, your work plan. Maybe my coming to a question then is, in Slovenia now, is this similar micro credit instruments used in other sectors as well, or is it still
Yes.
the agri? Okay.
Yes, they are also used for young entrepreneurs. That's done by another fund, entrepreneurial fund in Slovenia. So yes, it is quite widely used, but not only in Slovenia. I think throughout Europe, many countries are using this tool.
Thanks. And then I see Gustavs is asking a question in the chat, but Gustavs, do you want to also ask it with your microphone? Yeah, I think there was the it was frozen as well. But anyways,
what happens if the farmer's project doesn't work out or it is mismanaged? Has it happened? And have you had a situation that they cannot repay the loan? Yes, we only launched these financial instruments at the end of 2023, and we haven't had such it hasn't happened yet that the project would be mismanaged. But it can happen, of course. Not all of the projects succeed. We as a public fund are of course in communication with the young farmer, and we try to assist them in any way possible. We can also counsel them or mentor them. We try to help them resolve the situation. We can also grant them some periods when we do not ask them to return the loan. Or help him to find another way to repay it, all throughout the bank or whatever. I mean, we work very closely with them, but at the end, you know how the fund works. You finance the projects, and then you have to get the money back so you can finance other projects. So if it happens, then we find then of course we have procedures that we follow. But I am very pleased and happy to say that in the agriculture sector, it is not very common to happen. It does not happen a lot because as we have a lot of family farms. So this is their, how to say, life project. They do not do this kind of, very rarely do this kind of mistakes. So to mismanage the project so hardly that they cannot repay, then they can either launch another product and repay everything, or project and repay, you know, also this loan or whatever. But they prepare themselves very well for this project. They study the market. They know that they have to sell what they produce in order to repay the loan. This is also what we are preparing them for when they are preparing the application. They are they understand that a loan is a form of incentive that has to be repaid, and therefore you have to plan realistically. You have to include some risks in your plan when you're planning the project. So yeah, we are also mentoring them this way when they prepare the application. I hope I answered the question.
Very well, thank you.
And we have another question. I see how you define success of the project. Well, success of the project, of course, they have to meet the goals that they wrote in the application, but this is not the everything that represents the success of the project. If they are successful, they are then able to return the loan, because usually with so highly subsidized incentives, the projects are quite big, are bigger than they would be if they were, for example, be looking for finances on the market. They are much bigger. It means that they have to be successful. They have to generate the income with which then they repay the loan. So that is what I call successful. The farmer lives well, we live well, the state lives well. That's what I call a success. It's like a chain.
Yes, chain chain is becoming. Yes, systems and chains are the key. What strikes me in this whole discussion is first how the complementary the different approaches can be, that we have very different sides of one challenge. How much room there is to further professionalize approaches, to market failures in bringing capital to young people who want to achieve something, to actually communicating digitally using digital tools in combination with face-to-face meetings, to actually supporting young people that need support. There are so many elements, where you could get better, where we could continue making these mechanisms, making the tools more effective. I'm wondering if I still see them so, in a way, going in many directions and mobilizing different types of competences. The notion of some kind of overarching strategic framework seems challenging to set up. I don't know if you see the need, or if you feel a bit that you would need something, a stronger strategic overall framework, or if you feel comfortable in your specific fields, knowing that you complement each other. Do you see if there's something you've thought about, that you somehow the strategic framework for all of these approaches of getting young people into economic activities, employment or entrepreneurship jointly, and getting this forward, if this is something you can identify that you would need some kind of stronger overall framing of all these disparate and complementary efforts?
So this question was for me or for all of us?
You can start, of course, yeah.
Yes, I think it is, how to say, it is like a network. You see, there are so many stakeholders involved in getting the young people to get employed, or to start some entrepreneurial activities. But I don't think that represents a problem for a young person, maybe more for us, because they are very, like Gustav said, they are able to find these opportunities. They are very quicker than we are in this. They want to be involved. I think that, like I said, the key of the success of these financial instruments were in the fact that we were able to present them the benefits, to educate them about finances, and part of this education is also, you have to find the cheaper way to put your project to life, and that's your task. There are several institutions that will of course advertise, this is a good opportunity, these are cheap funds, but it is your task to choose the cheaper one, so that you can actually then really benefit from the incentive, and that you don't use all of the collateral, so you can develop further. So we educated them in many times, and they are very, very, how to say, easy to educate. It is really fun to work with them. They have a lot of questions. They turn around, they study the rest of the opportunities, and then they say, yes, this is the best one. They don't believe you at the first glance, we had a really good feedback from them we got. I have to say that for young people need a lot of opportunities, and they have to be able to choose the best one for them, for their specific situation.
Thank you. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
Gustav, you looked like you wanted to intervene, or?
No, just adding on top of it. I think exactly as Tjaša said, that essentially it's more of a problem for all of us, and for you as Interreg, to make such a setting which is in theory on youth. In reality, it's on financing in agriculture, and then digital, and then mentorship, and and many of us don't see all of these things in our lives, so we see one or two dimensions or something. But I think for young people, the main kind of question is how can we showcase all of this to them the quickest way possible so that they see everything and then they can choose with all the information in mind. And yeah, and I'm very grateful for the speakers, because I already sent the mentoring guidelines for our next project to our project managers, and also with this financing. We don't do agriculture, but we have benefited from similar grants so much that I cannot express it how beneficial it is, especially now when you reach some kind of a level in which your company has revenues or something, or organization. But yeah, the first money at that point, 25,000 is insane. You're like, wow, I can actually work on my thing and do this thing. And I think it's important to remember.
They can apply twice. They can get 50,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think those are nice words to close up this part. The fact of just seeing all the options. We've seen so many different types of support, or different types of ways of engaging with employees, etc. The challenge is to see that you have this whole panorama of options, and then that you take advantage of them. Thank you very much. I think we will just start softly closing now. We're already at the official end. So we'll see if I can just give a few words about the PLP policy learning platform now in this last phase.
You wish me to share the screen for you?
Yes, please. That would be great. I'll let you do it this time.
Just give me a moment.
So, as many of you will know already, this webinar is part of Policy Learning Platform's activities, and the Policy Learning Platform is offering then different types of support. People then meeting as we do today as part of a webinar or physical workshops. We have expertise types of formats, like we bring experts to your locality virtually or physically to actually deal with your challenges, and knowledge helping you with what you call help desk, all the formats to actually get access to information or good practices that you can work on. So we have different options like this. One of them is then the peer review format, which is then an ambitions format. When you have a specific challenge you would like support on, we actually can come to your region and we identify 6 relevant experts, or 4, 5, 6 experts from other parts of Europe, who come in and actually spend 2 days discussing your challenge in your setting and working on the elaboration of recommendations to address this challenge you are confronted to. We have at least 89, if not more. Keeping this figure up to date is challenging, keeps increasing. We're approaching the 100 soon. So we have quite an experience, and it's a very successful format in helping local and regional authorities address their challenges. Just one example here, it's a very different topic now, but on smart island tourism, they had brought together addressing on this their specific challenge. We brought in peers from Estonia, Norway, Finland, and we spent 2 days then working on this topic with them. Then we can move on to the matchmaking format, which is a smaller, either physical or virtual format of bringing 2 experts together, or 2 or 3 experts to come and discuss a challenge for 1.5 to 2 hours. And then also makes it possible to start engaging in this dialogue, comparing situations, bringing in experiences from other regions. In many cases, of matchmaking is a first step and leading to a peer review in the second phase. So this can can function as a stepping stone in many situations. We are not the only ones. And now today you've met parts of the social team in Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. We are also covering many other thematic fields, which you see to the right here in the right column. And there you have the overview of all the colleagues involved. So there is quite a lot of resources behind this and many talented colleagues to address a wide range of challenges and opportunities. Then that's all for us today. I hope you felt that this was an inspiring event. We will definitely be asking for your feedback on this. So you will receive a request to provide inputs or your impressions on this webinar. And then we hope to see you again soon in other Interreg Europe settings. Thank you very much.
Thank you and happy holidays.
Yes, very good.
Thank you.
Holidays
Merry
to all.
Thank you.
Christmas.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.